Hello and welcome to episode 212 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm James. Hopefully
and
my
this
audio is
week,
better this week.
hopefully my audio is better than it was in the pre-show. Podcast
That's
professionals.
right. Only
Um,
202 or 212 episodes in. You'd think we'd have
yeah.
this nailed down a little better by now.
Sometimes Dobie shows up and just messes up everything. Dobie the Gremlin. So this week we're gonna talk about our first impressions of the set,
Mhm.
and if there's time, we might talk about some uh old school Magic memories because people wanted to hear more about when we were young and like things didn't hurt for no reason.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be time or not. I think we definitely have some stuff to talk about this set, but yeah, if we get to it, we get to it. If not, we'll save it for another episode. I got
Yeah,
a file that I keep show ideas in, so I guess this is a pretty good segue to all our social media links that are down in the description
yeah.
where you guys can tell us what you want to hear. Because
Oh,
when I
and
get those, oh, go ahead.
yeah, and she wished me happy birthday because as you're listening to this today, it is my birthday, Thursday, February 9th.
All
I
right,
am. It hurts for no reason years old.
right. I will. I'll give you a happy birthday now, even though I'm gonna try real hard to remember tomorrow. But happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
And I like that. I don't know why this hurts years old. That's pretty good. I feel
Yes.
that.
In something that didn't used to hurt, you feel it. Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
think
know I had that bone for it to hurt.
one of my favorite lines was one of the guys we used to travel with, Nick,
Hmm.
when he would complain about, because he was a couple years older than us, when he would complain about getting old, he always said, "Well, this is just me now."
Exactly
One of
right.
his doctors told him that or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
I
just you
saw
now.
I saw a video where someone was like, before modern medicine, the average human life expectancy was like 35 years.
Yep.
And so anytime something on you hurts after you're 35, it's your body saying, I'm not even supposed to be here anymore.
Yeah, basically.
So it's like, all right. But yeah, if you want to reach out to us on social media and give us some show ideas, please do so. All those links are in the description below.
Yeah, I keep a running document of all the show ideas, whether they're usable or not, whether I answer them immediately or not. They all go in there. So, you guys got anything you want to hear about? Fire away. That's what we're here for. If you're looking to support the show, there's two ways you can do that. The first is no cost to you, and it's super easy. You use our TCG Player affiliate link when you're shopping for Magic cards. tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com is the link. Head on over there, do whatever shopping you're going to do, and as long as you navigated to the website using that link, we'll get a percentage of whatever you buy. Helps us out, helps pay for our hosting fees or whatever. We also had some issues with our hosting service last week, so hopefully those don't continue, or we'll have to find another place to host.
Yeah.
The
Podbean's letting us down.
Yeah, first time in 4 years. Weird.
Yeah, really.
Second way you guys can support us is directly through Patreon. Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. There's tiers there. They don't really mean anything. We just chip in whatever you feel we're worth, and we would appreciate that. Patrons, there's, like I said, there's tiers there, but only so that people can, have different amounts that they wish to chip in. Everybody gets access to our pre-show, which is us hopefully making sure our equipment works. The last couple of weeks have been a little rough, but that's what the pre-show's for. And us catching up, because we don't play Magic like we used to, so we don't see each other nearly as often. We spend about an hour catching up every week and take you guys along for the ride. Patrons also get access to our show notes, so they get kind of a sneak peek about what the upcoming show is going to be about. Even though we're recording a little late this week, and because we're recording late, I didn't have any show notes to put up. So normally you get that. And patrons also get put on my mailing list. If you wish to send me your address, I add you to my mailing list, and roughly bi-monthly, I send some swag out to you guys. And it's pretty cool. People seem to respond pretty well to it. Like little custom things that I do. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, or if you just think we're worth it, which we totally are, chip in a couple bucks. help support the show.
Totally are worth it.
Yep.
Totally are worth it.
Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG.
Yep.
And then the last thing we have to plug before we start this is our YouTube channel. Casual Try Hard MTG on YouTube. We got a whole bunch of content coming out there. Brian does limited videos 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Although maybe by the end of this episode, you'll understand why we may not be doing a ton of limited videos this time around.
Yeah.
We also have a video version of the podcast that goes out there on Thursdays, where you can see our smiling faces. And on Tuesdays, I do Tomfoolery Tuesdays, which is a lot more casual, really not competitive at all. I play kind of weird decks in different formats. A lot of people have been really positive about Historic Brawl, the stuff I've been putting up on Historic Brawl, so that's what I've been doing lately. I'm probably going to do some standard stuff with this set, though. There's a couple decks I'm interested in. But it's kind of a grab bag. You never really know what you're going to get. So stop into our YouTube channel and check all of that out.
Yes, please. I also am interested in some like standard / explorer nonsense.
Yeah.
So you may get some of that.
Yeah. Nonsense, not competitive.
A little column A, little column B. Like
I'm interested in some nonsense. I don't think anything that I have is going to be super competitive, but it should be fun.
For the old sports heads in listening, the words of Herm Edwards: "You play to win the game." So that is what I'm about. So let's talk about our Phyrexia All Will Be One experience thus far.
Yeah.
I even brought up some cards so I can like at least remember some card names when we're talking.
Yeah, I got I haven't had a ton of time to play. So long story short, we pushed this episode back a couple days because Wizards messed with the release schedule of this set a little bit from what we're used to. So instead of record an episode on Monday and then have the set come out on Tuesday and like not have talked about the new release, we decided to push this back to Wednesday. So we're recording Wednesday for the show Thursday, and we have exactly 1 evening's worth of play in. So I sat down to do, I think I had just finished my first draft, and you sent me a message about the format. And basically said it was a dumpster fire.
I kind of hate it. The third draft, I went from fully hating it to I went to kinda. So we'll see. But I have some very specific problems.
Yeah.
With
Just
the
in
format.
general, before we get into specifics.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a point yet where I've disliked this format, but I'm certainly not incentivized to keep playing limited like I usually am. Normally, I'm pretty excited just to run through like however much gold and gems I have and just crank out, 10 or 12 drafts and then move on with my life. And we haven't had a ton of time with this set yet, but I've done 2 drafts and don't really care if I do a third, I don't think. It's definitely not an all-timer.
I've done 3, and yeah, it's just not. So I think we've said this like every new format that has come out. It's like this format feels really aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
More so, I think, than some other ones.
Yeah.
And there are definitely some cards that you're like, oh, this should be good, that just like don't work out.
Mm.
But so for example, Ambulatory Edifice, 2 and a black, 3/2. When it enters, you can pay 2 life, and if you do, target creature gets -1/-1. There are times you can get a real card, and there are other times it's just a 3/2 no text.
Yeah.
Which is like pretty rough for like an uncommon. And then what's the other? And then just all of the toxic stuff. Gotta put it out there right there. All of the toxic stuff.
Okay.
I lost of my 3 drafts, I've lost 9 games. I would say a third of them, so 3, Like I'm 100% that 3 of them I lost to poison.
Mm-hmm. It
And like
poison definitely happens more than I thought it would. I know when we were
and
doing our like mechanics episodes talking about the
mhm,
mechanics or whatever, the way the cards read at that point, at least in my brain, was toxic was really only there to turn on corrupted. Um,
mhm.
but toxic or poison counters are way more relevant than I thought.
Yeah, so the issue I had, like, I lost games where I was at 13 life
Yeah.
to poison. And so it makes it really hard for you to stabilize because um once you have one poison counter, seemingly like a third of the spells in the format do their thing plus a shock.
Right. Because
Right?
they
Like you
proliferate or like is there two or three there's at least two black cards that like do the thing for the rate that it normally would be and then
or
also
close to it.
give a poison counter or proliferate.
So so there is the Vraska's whatever
Yeah, sacrifice a
awakening.
creature, opponent gets a poison counter.
Yeah, so and that's 3 mana. So maybe it's a little bit more
Yeah.
than a typical edict, but it's at common. So like a 3 mana edict at common doesn't feel like it's wrong.
Right.
Then there's Drown and Ichor. It's a sorcery, but a creature gets neg 4, and you proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like that is a card that is playable.
Yeah. Isn't there like a draw two, lose two, proliferate also for free?
Infectious Inquiry. Yeah, draw 2, lose 2, opponent gets a poison counter. Like that, opponent gets a poison counter is literally free.
Right.
So like you get to like you get the board stabilized and you're at like 7 poison. And like I even made a comment in the video. I'm like, well, this is maybe the problem with poison counters is I'm at 7 and like if they don't draw anything, like they kind of did all this work for nothing. Oh, they definitely I think they definitely drew things after that.
Yeah.
But you get in this situation where like all of the spells deal you damage.
Mhm.
And you're just like I can't.
Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, like that's why I said they all have a shock attached to them, right? Cuz
Yeah.
you need 10 shocks to kill someone or 10 poison counters.
Yeah.
You would once you get that first counter, right? Anticipate that also dealt you 2 would never get printed.
Right.
But we have anticipate that deals you 2 and then puts a counter on 2 of your other things.
Right.
Or on 2 of their things. So like you get to the situation where you're like I'm stable, but the top of their deck can kill me.
Right.
Right? Like I'm effectively at 6 life and they're a red deck. Right? Like that feeling of like, am I just gonna get lava axed?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or I guess at 5 I'm a lava axe. And then they're just like, what is it? Was it experimental augury? Or is that a different card?
No, I think that was
Something.
I think that's the anticipate.
Okay. Like experimental augury into another proliferate card, and you're like, oh, I'm dead now.
Yeah.
Or they like dink you for 1, and you're like, well, okay, now I just died of 2 spells.
Right. Yeah, it makes it awkward, but yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it, and it's really like you can't look at this set in general like that. You can only kind of look at this limited environment like that because there's so much like toxic and poison counters floating around. But yeah, I mean, it kind of breaks the color pie, right? If you're blue spells and black spells and greens, but there's a green spell that proliferates. Like if all of those colors can just deal direct damage now.
Yeah, there's also a instant speed infectious bite.
Yep.
Right, it gives them a poison counter.
Yep.
Right, it used to be that hey, if you can like block and not get poison counters, then this proliferate stuff isn't as big a deal. But now there's just like one in the blue, draw a card, take a poison counter, give them a poison counter, and it's like again, you would never print 1 in the blue, draw a card, deal 2.
Right.
Right, and that's kind of what it is. and I hadn't thought of that until like I was playing, and I was like, oh, you're just never stable.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that have cheap, um, what's it called? Cheap, so many cheap toxic creatures.
Yeah.
That it's really easy to get that first poison counter on someone.
The first few poison counters I've found.
Yeah. And then then they play the whatever, the plague nurse, and all their toxic creatures get additional toxic.
Right.
Or they play the green black uncommon, and all of their things deal you and you're just like, oh, I'm at 16, I'm gonna take 3 damage here, but 7 poison.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to die next turn.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I died at 10. And it's just like, oh, I really didn't play this game.
Yeah.
Because Jawbone, the Jawbone guy?
The Jawbone.
Jawbone Duelist?
Oh,
the 1/1 double striker?
Yep.
Right? He's kind of a 2/2 double striker?
Yep.
For life total, and for 2 mana, that card's not okay.
Right.
But it's apparently okay.
Yep. It's
so I played
certainly better than the fencing ace.
Certainly better than the fencing ace. It can kill you an alternate way.
Yep.
So like I said, the format feels aggressive right now because going long leaves you open to the whole poison thing, because one of the control decks is effectively blue black.
Mm-hmm.
Which just incidentally poisons you out of the game.
Yep. And can do it without swinging.
Yeah. Oh, also the claustrophobia proliferates.
Yeah, it does.
It's like they just took cards they printed before and just tacked extra value onto them.
Yep.
Perhaps more offensively done than energy, but less consequential.
Yeah.
Right? We're energy, it just wasn't all this random stuff gave you energy. It's not like they were it was hey, you get energy, but to tap this creature so it doesn't untap, you need to pay 2.
Yeah. Right?
This is just no, the creature's tapped and you proliferate and deal your opponent a damage or 2 damage. So that's what I don't like, is because you just, all the games are now, they feel like they're shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And you're now balancing 2 life totals.
Right.
And sometimes you can only effectively defend one of them.
There's also an oddly high number of toxic creatures with evasion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange. It would seem if you're gonna put something like toxic in a set, you would want to kind of limit the number of creatures with evasion. But there's 2 white ones with evasion, I think.
There's
there's a green one with trample.
So
and there's green ones with death touch and a black one with death touch.
And there's a black one that doesn't have evasion, but when it dies, proliferate.
Oh, there's a black one with menace too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying there's the Windrake that with toxic 1 and white that also is give something with toxic flying for the turn.
Yep.
So hey, congratulations, you're gonna get that in probably. Duelist of Deep Faith has first strike when it attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That should have been a sign that we're not about blocking in this set.
Yeah.
Is hey, first strike when it attacks. It doesn't do anything but stays home. Get in there. Yeah, so it just feels, I felt behind a lot.
Yeah.
And there's also some cards that don't there's a black one with flying. I'm just scrolling through. Stinging Hivemaster. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a black with toxic 1, and it dies into a mite.
Yeah.
Since the mites can't block, dying into a mite doesn't do you any good.
Right.
Normally, a 3/2 that dies into a 1/1
is 2 chump blockers.
Is 2 chump blockers, or a trade
Yeah.
and a chump, but like the fact that it can't block and you're just like, well, I can throw this away or I can like leave it back. It almost feels like they're giving you decayed zombies, but not big enough to like actually matter.
Right.
So I don't know, it just felt like when you would get to the point where you're like, okay, now like we can like play a game. I've like withstood the initial onslaught. They're like proliferate, thing gives you a poison counter, you're dead.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but we were just now to the point where like we could play a game.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not playing the game now? And it's like, well, when you get to 10 poison counters, you see state-based actions occur and you die.
One of us
Again,
dies. That's why
no.
we're not playing the game.
No.
That is why.
So like I had gosh. The sack.
The
Which
sack.
yeah, the green artifact that has oil counters on it.
Yeah.
It felt good, but like it also felt like it was way too slow.
Yeah.
Like it's what is it? It is three threes that you just get to like pay 4 mana for whenever you feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's sorcery speed. And it was like, it's like, yeah, this is a little slow. Like these are now chump blockers because I'm so far behind.
Yeah, and like you said, the game's so much about attacking that you don't really have time to take off to do cool things like that.
Yeah. Like it doesn't seem like, sadly, it doesn't seem like value matters, man. I want value to matter.
Yep. Value is different now.
Against all odds, I had it a couple times. It's awkward. I could never get a situation where I got to choose both.
The white thing that like blinks and brings something back?
Yeah, because it was like, oh, like there's a bunch of like pacifism / like claustrophobia removal.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good. But it's like, well, when they're doing that, they're not killing your three CMC thing.
Right.
And when they're killing your 3 CMC thing, they're not tapping them.
So
with it.
I had when in the sealed pool that I did. I know sealed's different than draft, but the sealed pool that I did, I ended up red white, and that thing's a house with the artifacts that have 4 Mirrodin.
Oh yeah, because you make it 2/2.
You bring a thing back, and then you bounce it, and you get like a free 2/2.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or like, you know, if you had like Basilica Shepherd or something, maybe I just didn't build my decks right to take advantage of it.
Is that the one that bounces or returns something to your hand and makes a might?
This is the 5-drop that just makes 2 mites.
Oh yeah, that too. The thing that returns something to your hand and makes a might is good with the 4 Mirrodin equipment also.
Yeah. So. Indoctrination attended.
Yeah. Might be something else to think about. Might be a
I had one of those
deck or something, I don't know. But it was some cool synergies that I found.
Yeah. I think the best decks I played against were the toxic decks, like the Abzan colors. I don't know if I played against blue red.
The first draft that I did was black green splashing white, and I think I got 6 wins with it.
Okay. And then, I have not done that well thus far.
I think I've only played against 1 blue red deck.
Yeah, and I played a blue green oil counters deck that did not go well.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the edict, like, is like so hit or miss. I guess it's kind of the normal way for edicts. But like I had it be amazing against me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna totally take these and just play it against like walls of like mites, and I was just like, this is not fair. What's this happening?
Which edict? Vraska's or Shieldred's?
Vraska's.
I don't know. I guess it depends on your deck, because like I had a couple of games where that card mattered. Like I wanted to pay 3 mana just to proliferate.
Or put a poison counter on them or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, I had games where like that card was just a hard removal spell that gave me a poison counter.
Yeah.
And then I was like, in the next draft, I was like, this card was really good against me. I'll take it. And then it was like awful.
Yeah.
Or 3 mana, get a poison counter, kill like a mite that doesn't super matter.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you just for a second and apologize to whoever's watching this on YouTube, because your mic just cut out again and I'm not going to fix the video. So you got like 3 seconds of Brian cutting out.
Oh no, what is
Yeah.
computer? What is wrong with you? That is so weird. I mean, it seems like it's showing up on my end.
Yeah. I'm not sure why it's doing it, but
that's all right.
I just wanted to apologize quick. So sorry guys.
I will give a stern talking to my computer.
Yeah. It's a lot harder to make the video right than it is to make the audio right. So I'm
way harder.
To bother.
Way harder. I totally get that.
Yep.
Yeah, and like corrupted is trivial.
Yeah.
Like it's super easy most of the time to get corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think if you're building your deck as you're drafting, I think you want the things that you're either A, happy playing without corrupted, being active, or just the things that give poison counters.
Right.
And then once you have the things that give the poison counters, then your corrupted stuff is a higher pick for you.
Yeah.
Don't take the corrupted stuff and then take the poison counter stuff. Take the poison counter stuff first.
Yeah.
So you kind of have
that's kind of like just good limited strategy though, because there's multiple decks that want the poison counters, but really only like one deck that actually wants the corrupted stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Kaldheim, where like there's one deck that really wanted snow, but all the snow was your fixing too, so kind of everybody wanted snow.
Mm-hmm.
So like you kind of like your pick order had to go up in your pick order, because otherwise you just wouldn't get fixing.
Yeah, and then eventually the things that cared about snow would be left over, or you could just take any of them.
Right.
Right. So like once you have the ways to put the counters on things, then you can take all those things pretty easily.
Yeah.
And not really worry about it. What other cards were good?
Did you get to play with the is it a 3 mana 4/1 that dies and draws you the best card of the top 3 or your library or whatever?
I did not.
That thing was pretty solid for me.
Because
it's just like like you said, it's hard to play like a value game in this set, but it trades with basically anything and then draws you a card.
Yeah. I think I passed a couple, but I did not get to play with one.
Yeah.
Testament Bearer.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah. 4 mana, 4/1.
Oh, it's a 4 mana? I thought it was 3.
Yeah. 3 and a black.
Maybe I was thinking of the green thing that's similar. It's like a green 3/3 that like gets you a land. Satyr Wayfinder kind of deal. 3 cards gets you a land. That's pretty solid too. Trades with a lot and kind of pseudo draws you a card.
What did you think about have you played the tap lands?
Yeah, I thought they were fine.
I thought they were fine as well. I had like opponents like using them to get through their deck. I played a couple.
Yeah, I don't think you want more than a couple.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd play more than one of any like particular color, because they can lead to some awkward draws.
Yeah.
But the format isn't like hyper aggressive where you're like trying to stick 1-drops all the time. So if you have one in your opener, you can kind of, that's a pretty safe turn 1 play. But also like there's room later in the game to like have a tap land come down and not
Yeah.
like completely ruin your plans, and then like drawing a card off of a land slot is basically it's slow cycling, right?
Hmm.
Like that's always super relevant. Prevents flood out. Make sure you draw gas in the late game.
Like, though it might not be aggressive in the sense of like you've got to play like a one drop all the time, I do feel like it's kind of like if you miss a land drop, I feel like the game just ends.
Well,
Like
yeah,
sort of if yeah, if your opponent goes like 2, 3, 4,
yeah.
and like you miss your third land, like like a lot of limited sets as of late, the cards are so powerful
Mm-hmm.
that like,
You get
oh
super
hey, I
punished.
missed my land drop. You're just so far behind you can't ever claw your way back.
That's kind of an interesting point. I wonder how much of that is because like the majority, I would assume the majority of limited games are being played on arena now with hand smoothing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
like is it safer to push the design of cards because games are played with hand smoothing now?
maybe, but like I think it takes away, right?
Oh, it
I think
definitely does. It's not the same game.
there are less games where you miss your third land drop and then claw your way back.
Yeah.
I think there are way more games where you miss your third land drop and you're
Concede on turn
just,
4.
yeah, it's just like, oh, I can never win from this position because I didn't play a spell on turn 3
Yeah.
and my opponent did.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like Canker Bloom. It's a 2 mana 3/2,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
With
you know,
utility.
with utility, right? Like, if you stumble on a color or something and like your opponent's played like a Canker Bloom into like some other reasonable like 3 drop into some, I say reasonable 3 drop, but like a card that's not like, oh hey, that's I picked the best uncommon in the set.
Yeah.
It's like no, you're just like behind now
Yeah.
and you're not going to catch up. Like I'm just like scrolling here. But I mean even like into like, then you play like Lean and Lightbringer, a 3 mana 3/2. And then you play like some like, there's a not this is a good deck, but then there's the Oil Gorger Troll.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's 5 mana. Well, there's a 4 mana 4/4 that lets you proliferate if you pay 2.
Yep.
Right? Like you're just like, oh, they have 10 power on board.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to be chump blocking now for the next like 3 turns.
Yeah. Now you just mentioned oil counters, and I think earlier you said that you played like a blue green oil counter deck.
I had like 2 Tamios immobilizers. I had the sack, the
Sack.
incubation sack, and was like able to get counters and uh kind of keep things going with proliferate.
Yeah.
It was fine, but like it felt like a game that wanted to play a deck that wanted to play longer games, and
Which
like
is really
those were the
hard to
games
do.
where I was like, oh, I gained 3 life off my troll and drew a card.
Yeah.
That doesn't take care of the fact I have like 5 poison,
Right.
and I'm like under this weird clock now.
Yeah.
Where like they don't have to like think about, and that's another thing, right? Like if your life total was 10, you like attacks where you like attacked with 4 things and got in 3 damage or 2 damage
Mm-hmm.
are way more impactful than when your life's at 20.
Right.
Right? So like, you know, they can make an attack where they throw away some mites and something else
Mm-hmm.
because they got you from 5 to 7, and they're like, I'm going to cast a proliferate, and then I'm going to cast a spell that gives you a poison counter, a creature I can proliferate with, and then I'll just draw the last thing.
Yeah.
Or you have to block. So like, oh hey, I'm going to like try to like control the board and set up shop is like hard to do because your life total in a lot of cases is 10.
Right.
Because like I don't think it's unreasonable to have like almost all of the creatures in your deck have toxic.
Uh, like I said, I'm only 2 drafts in, and my second draft is not toxic. It's white black, but I mean it is toxic because more than half of my creatures have toxic, even though I didn't draft a toxic deck.
You weren't trying to, you just had it. Yeah.
Well,
I had
I
that
mean, I
deck.
was
It was
trying to
pretty good.
draft a like a corrupted proliferate deck,
Mhm.
and like back like a value e deck. I
Mhm.
think I was telling you, I don't know if it was in the pre-show or when we were just talking, but my pack one pick one was Vraska, so it's like, oh sweet, let's do some proliferate shenanigans. I drafted 2 of the guys to like drain for 2 when you proliferate, and it seemed like a sweet deck. But then, like when I was actually building it after the draft, like everything I drafted just has toxic. So I'm not killing people with proliferate. I'm not getting value off of it. I'm just like killing people outright,
Yeah, you're just like
incidentally.
you're yeah, like you're not like I'm gonna drain you for 2 with this proliferate. It's like
Yeah,
I'm gonna drain you for 2, and I'm gonna give you a poison counter, and I'm probably gonna kill you with poison counters before I kill you with
right.
regular damage. Maybe the toxic deck will get worse, but it's so hard because like I feel like there's like 3 or 4 toxic decks.
Yeah.
Right, like realistically, you could be white, black,
Hmm.
and though you are trying to do the corrupted thing, you have to have enough poison to make that happen.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is like the white black deck wants in quotes to play more of like a control-y value long game, but like you can kill with poison without ever dealing a point of toxic, like
Yeah,
pretty
like
easily.
I've died that way.
Yeah,
And that's why I was like, how am I at 13 and like I only got like attacked twice and then I just died.
right.
And it's like, oh, because again, every spell is a shock.
Yeah.
And but like you have white black, you have green black,
Hmm.
you have blue black, and you have green white.
Yep.
And like you could probably mess around and be like blue white toxic.
Yeah. And probably blue
Relatively.
green toxic too.
Mm-hmm. So like usually it's like, oh well, like if the red cards are all too good in a set, then more people will draft red and everything will balance out. But if the toxic cards are too good, like what do
Right.
you like that's half the set.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one where I don't know how they like so typically I don't know if listeners know this. When they develop sets, they don't actually draft them.
Yeah.
They will do some sealed and see how that goes, but they won't like draft the set because it's too hard to get 8 people to sit down and do a draft.
Well, it also changed, like when they're developing it, it changes so frequently that even if you did manage to scrape some people together to draft, that's so unlikely to give any meaningful data
Mhm.
for development purposes that it's kind of just a waste of time.
So if you have noticed in recent sets, there's kind of like a checklist
Yeah.
of cards you know are going to be in the set,
Yep.
right? There's going to be some big green thing that like enters the battlefield and gains you life
Yep.
and is big enough to stabilize you.
Yep.
A hint that this format might be aggressive is that card's sometimes at 6 or 7.
Hmm.
Think Honey Mammoth
Right.
at 6. It's at 5.
Yeah.
And it draws you a card if you have oil counters.
Hmm.
Right? And so like I don't know like if you played like if you did 3 drafts of this, like if you'd be like, "Oh hey, like we've turned the knobs correctly on proliferate and toxic." Right? Cuz like I think it's harder to make it like work in sealed, I would assume.
Yeah. Um, so when I did my sealed, I'm trying to remember now. I started off as like a mid-rangey whatever deck, and I thought I had a decent deck, but it didn't feel right when I played my first game. Like I lost, but the deck also didn't really seem to gel super well. So I
Mhm.
switched to white red and seemed to work much better.
But like in terms of like in a sealed pool, it's hard to like in a draft you could get You can be like, I'm gonna poison people out. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
every card that says and gets a poison counter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm gonna have 3 Verascas fall and 3 of the draw card get a poison counter. Right? Some removal, and then some like creatures that proliferate or like can get the last few points. Or use those spells to get the last few points. Like that's way harder to come together in sealed.
Yeah.
So like maybe like you miss the fact that like, oh, like people are just gonna be dying from between 8 and 13.
Yeah.
And like that's usually where like games start to like happen.
Right.
Right? Like
There starts to be more back and forth, combat matters more or whatever.
yeah, you have blockers, like, you know, you can
Combat
pass with
tricks.
mana. Yeah, you can pass with mana up, so they have to worry about like, oh, do you have a combat trick, or do you have uh a removal spell that'll blow me out when I use my combat trick?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times on the early turns, right, like, you know, you have a 2/2 and your opponent has a 2/2 and they attack into you, right? If they haven't played anything pre-combat, you're like, I guess I'll just take this, and so I don't get like combat tricked.
Mm-hmm.
And then like next turn I'll have something that can like actually block this, and they have to have a combat trick.
Yeah.
Or right, and or I could double block it and like I'll kill it and eat their combat trick. So like sometimes in the first like couple turns of the game, you just aren't in a situation where you can like block,
Right.
and then you get to that point where you're like, so you've lost like 5 or 6 life. You're like, okay, I've got some big things now. I have some removal spells. All right, cool. Like I'm stable now. And then they're just like, oh no, like kill you with, you know, my proliferate spell.
Yeah.
You're like, oh. And so like it just seems like the games are gonna be a lot of times shorter.
I'm gonna die in 3 hits to a thrumming bird.
Yeah, and you're like, oh well that like I'm at 7. I still have like in theory 4 turns to draw something to block this, but I'm dead.
Right.
Also, oh gosh, what is the white combat trick that draws you a card if the creature has toxic?
Yeah.
Like what is this? Like it makes no sense. Complete devotion.
Yep.
Like but why? Like this just seems like at first, right before I played, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of like weird flavor text." Oh no, it just draws you a card like
Basically all
over
the time.
half the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe I need to like prioritize that card because like, hey, crawling chorus attack you on turn 2. If you block, great. I'll kill your thing and draw a card.
Yep.
Right? A cantripping removal spell is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you didn't block? Okay, fine, I'll play my 2-drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just like amazing. And like you have to respect that, right? You can't just be like doop de doop de doo. I'm gonna block with my 2-drop
Time to get
and
blown
then get
out.
annihilated.
Yeah. There's that red one too, that red combat trick that draws a card is like way better than that card has been in other sets also.
Blazing Crescendo?
Is it +3/+1, exile a top card of your library, you can play it till the end of your next turn. So it gives you like a whole turn to play the card.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Right? Like those kind of cards don't typically exist.
Right.
So the equipment deck I've played against it a few times. It seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great, but like their equipments are also creatures, so
Yeah, like I think that's one of the cool things about this set is that the equipments are creatures, and there's like enough random like blink, bounce, reanimate shenanigans happening in the same colors that I think it makes the deck interesting in a way that it didn't used to be interesting. Like if we were talking about that 4 mana like flicker a thing, reanimate something.
Mhm.
Like that card with the equipments that make a creature an auto attach when they enter the battlefield is kind of crazy because it's like a 3-for-1 almost, because when you flicker the equipment, it leaves a body, and then it makes another body and brings something back out of the graveyard.
Yeah. And it's just so many little pieces. I guess I drafted that card in like a black deck is like, oh, I can block with that 3/2 that leaves a mite, and then get it back and get another mite. And it's like, and like in my exact deck, the mites didn't matter that much because I much would have rather had blockers.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it'll change as the format matures, but right now I don't think the mites matter a whole lot anyway, because they can't
Unless you go
block.
like wide. Unless you're like,
Yeah, but you got to go
if you're in a
super wide though.
but if you're in a situation where like you've engaged a race, right?
Mhm.
And so your opponent's like, I'm going to attack you, right? Now your might, like, they have to start thinking, well, these mites all have effectively 2 power.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to just like keep taking 2. So like now I'm not going to attack.
Yeah.
Right. So that can like slow down a game. But then like there were so many cards that I didn't draft my last draft and then like lost to. It was quite embarrassing. The equipment that makes mites when the thing attacks.
No, I didn't see that. I haven't seen that yet.
It's an uncommon. People can yell at me because I was like, yeah, like I'm not an equipment deck. I didn't realize. Infested Flush Cutter. It is 1 and a white for an equipment with equipped creature gets +2/+0. Equipped class is 3, so not cheap. But once you get it on the thing, whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Mite. So like, if you like put it on a mite and attack, now the mite's gonna trade for something real.
Yeah.
And it's
replace
making
itself.
the next thing to wear the Flush Cutter.
Yeah.
So, like, I wish I would have taken that card in retrospect, but
You
yeah.
learn as the
So
format goes on. It's
you
hard to
do,
nail
you
everything
definitely do.
right away.
Yeah, but like, I hope we get to play those games that go longer, because right now it just feels like everyone's kind of like racing to 10.
Yeah, I mean that might be it, and I think we kind of alluded to this in the pre-show, but like that might be new shiny thing syndrome too,
Mm-hmm.
though, where we haven't had poison counters in this set for so long that like that's what everyone's trying to do right now, and there's more people forcing it than maybe should be, and nobody's really exploring any of the other archetypes because we are super new. Like we're 24 hours in or 28 hours in or whatever. So
Yeah,
there hasn't been a whole lot of time to iterate or for the format to evolve yet.
agreed. So I'm hoping for some sort of improvement there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's just toxic everywhere as far as you can see, because there's just so many cards that are like reasonably costed with toxic at common or uncommon in basically any color except for red.
Except for red. Sorry, red.
Yep.
Yeah, you had a good run. You tried.
Yep.
Anything else you gleaned from the format while you're playing it?
The removal's weird.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't exactly know where I'm going with this, but it doesn't feel like all the removal seems like conditional. There's no like staple, reasonable rate kill a thing. It's like sacrifice a creature, pay a fortune,
Yeah, I mean
exile a thing. But if you're trying to exile a creature, it's going to cost 6 mana.
the uncommon ones are good.
Yeah,
But the common ones are kind of whatever. The red ones were good.
yeah. The
Like Volt
3
Charge.
damage proliferate.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one was good because it hits
that one's
anything. Like
good.
you can dome your opponent with it too. So
Yeah,
I like
kind of
that.
like Excavation Explosion in the last set.
Yep. Except you also get to proliferate. So
yeah. Sometimes you like get to dome them twice, and I think hex, like the red removal Hexgold Slash is good too. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe you just have to like play like maybe there's just like a red X like control deck where you just take all this like ridiculous common removal
Yeah.
and just mow down all their toxic stuff.
How do you feel about that black 1-drop neg 1 to proliferate, or neg 1 your opponent gets opposing counter or whatever? I think it's neg 1 proliferate.
Yeah, I know it's neg 1, but yeah, I don't remember what it is. It's weird because even with like proliferate, you don't want to spend a card to kill a mite. And like I said, I had the uncommon, the 3/2, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna totally get some 2-for-1 value here.
Mm-hmm.
And then like my opponent played like a red rare 1-drop that was a 1/2, and I was like, but then like my opponent hit me with the 1-mana thing. Like I played the 3/2, the 2-mana 3/1 in green with Toxic 2.
Yep.
It just ate that, and I got a poison counter.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, now like I'm in a bind.
Well, so that's
Because
what
I
I was
have
going
one
to
poison
say.
counter.
I've been more impressed with that card than I think I would have been in most sets because of the proliferate, but also like there's a bunch of reasonable targets. There's that 3/1 that you just said. The double striker is a 1/1.
Yeah.
Tags that, and that's like a reasonable threat. Thrumming Bird is a magic card that exists and does things that you probably need to kill.
Yes.
It kills that. It kills the 2/1 artifact creature that like shrinks your guys when it attacks, which is oddly annoying. It just seems like there's a lot of reasonable targets for it that you don't mind spending a card on.
Yeah. Whisper of the Dross.
Yeah, that's the one.
I mean,
like you read the card and you look at the card file and you think, oh yeah, this is only ever going to kill mites. And like you said, if you're just killing mites, it doesn't matter. But I think there's enough stuff with 1 toughness that's relevant that.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that there are going to be matchups where you feel like a genius,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, this was great. I like traded up on mana, amazing. And there'll be other times where you're just going to look at it in your hand and go, like, this doesn't do anything. And like those times, it's just like, oh, this is. I like I said, I keep going back to Ambulatory Edifice. I was like, oh, sick. I'm gonna like get things with this. Now, the Whispers of the Dross does have the advantage of like shrink their 2/2 in combat to kill your thing.
Or
so
1 mana proliferate.
Yeah, remember Skullduggery?
Yeah, that card was nuts.
Yeah, I mean this might be just like Skullduggery where you're just gonna like win every combat.
Yeah.
But again, this is also like why it's hard to like block on turn 2 or on turn 3, right?
Right.
Your opponent's like they like play a black 2-drop and they're just like they just confidently attack on turn 3, and you're like, do they have the thing? And I'm just gonna like look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Or can I block here?
Yep. No, I thought it was an interesting card to talk about because, like I said, normally that card would be unplayable in a set. But
there are you are right. There are a lot of like Bladed Ambassador, a 3/1 that gets indestructible if you remove an oil counter. Well, that kills it.
Yep.
There are a lot of 2/1s and 3/1s, but like it should be good. It is good, but again, there's definitely gonna be like if you're playing best of 3, right? It's definitely a card that like you would have 1 in your main deck and like to have like 2 more in the board.
Yeah.
And there'd be
I don't
games
think you want to main deck 3 of them and best of 1. Like that would be.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, like if you had 1 in the main and 2 in the side,
yeah,
right? There'd be matchups where you would bring those 2 in,
right?
Because they're just fatal push.
Yep.
And then there'd be matchups where you'd take that 1 out because it just would have very little impact.
Yeah.
And being best of 1, you've just got to like hope that you like that the proliferate really matters with the times that the -1/-1 doesn't. And It kind of feels like it will. Like, just black proliferate's probably good enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, yeah. So I think cheap removal is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so maybe Whisper of the Dross, Hex Gold Slash, the Drown and Acre. Not that I have to say like take the 2 mana, the 2 damage, the 2 mana neg 4.
Right.
Like, duh. We all know that's good. uh, Analysis that they come for. Take the good card.
Yeah.
But like I think this like the 6 mana like you said the 2 and a white and then it's pay 3 more if it targets a creature.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many games get to that point where like they have one big threat that you're worried about,
No, I don't think so.
right? Like you kill the one big threat and then it's just like the top of their deck kills you because they pay 1 mana and proliferate.
Right. And then you
And
die.
you're like, oh no. Yeah.
I,
Oh
I
no.
I had 9 poison. Now I'm dead.
Yeah. Right. So also there's like a what was it? There's some mirror that I didn't know about. It's like 2 mana, 2/1 with toxic that like searches your deck for a land and puts it on top.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I didn't even know that card existed. Someone played against me. It's like I would have taken like 2 of you in this deck. I did not even know you were here.
I mean, I've seen it a couple times. I don't think I found a deck that super wants it. It goes on top. Like I don't ever want to put lands on top of my deck.
I mean, as we talked about me getting punished the hardest ever for a splash,
Yeah, I guess
like
that's
Dune
true.
Mover, right? If you like if you have one of these, it's not like embarrassing as like a toxic creature that's a 2/1.
Yeah.
Fine. And then put a land on top like if you have like a swamp because you have 2 black cards.
Yeah. I didn't think
Like
about
that's
it
not
for
the end of the
splashing.
world. Right? Like it's like bad Pilgrim's Eye, but like you wanted Pilgrim's Eye when you were splashing.
Right.
So like more of like it's not an embarrassing 2 drop and it like guarantees you your third land.
Yeah.
And like can fix your splash, but I don't know if you wouldn't like in a 2 color deck.
Yeah, but it doesn't guarantee your third land until turn 4.
No, it's a 2 drop.
Right. So it comes down. Oh, it ETBs and puts a land on top?
When it enters the battlefield, you may
Okay.
search your library for a basic land and reveal it, put it on top.
Okay.
So like, maybe you get to the point where you're like, oh, I have 3 Dune movers.
Yeah.
Again, thing to try if you don't care about your gems, but like maybe you get like 3 Dune movers and you're like, I can play 15 lands.
Yeah.
Because I need 2, and then I'm gonna have a Dune mover to hit my third.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh cool, and my curve stops at like 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What format? I think that there was a point in Brothers War that it was like a 15 or 16 land format.
Ooh.
Where it was like super aggressive. I guess I want all my like limited games to be like long, value-y slugfests.
I mean, that's the kind of
And
magic that I live for, but that's not how limited has been for a long time, at least for me.
yeah, but what I was gonna say is like I think like I mentioned the power level of the cards, the
Yeah.
amount of stuff that the 1, 2, and 3 mana cards do, you just don't have time to like play your like 5 drop that like returns a creature to your hand.
Right.
Right? Like, oh, I'm gonna trade and then trade again, and it's like, okay, you traded twice, but I got like 12 damage in,
Yeah.
and 7 infect. So now you like got your thing back. I only have to attack like once or twice more, and I win the game.
Yeah.
Or like I have a pump spell or like the stupid falter, and I'm going to like falter you,
For
and
people
now
that
you
don't know what
lose.
falter is,
Creatures can't block this turn.
falter's
So
like the original version of that
yeah,
card. We get one like every set, but
yeah. This one deals 1 damage to everything because there's infinite mites,
right.
and then everything damaged by it can't be blocked.
Yep.
Also, like, I forgot that Skrelv made it so you couldn't block.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Oh, tap your thing," and they were like, "Cool, I'll just make the other one so it can't be blocked by green things." And I was like, "Yep,
Yep, that does
that
it.
that that would that would give me 2 more poison and put me to 10."
Yeah.
So if you can't tell, I thought that the toxic stuff was gonna be like a fringy thing, like we said, like you'd get the corrupted and then like kind of dirtle around with like the
Yeah.
3 to 4 and like 3 to 5 poison counters, and like maybe if you built this like hardcore dedicated deck. And I wanted to draft that deck. I was like, oh, it'd be fun to be like blue black, just do like the nonsense thing. Like I think that instead, I think it's just like a good deck.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like this should be like this should be like mill,
Mm-hmm.
where it's got like fringy and goofy.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, what is the best thing to do? Now, granted, we're a grand total of 5 drafts in, but
True.
between the two of us, so maybe that'll change. But right now, it's just like, oh, the best thing you can do is to count to 10. It's
1,
like,
2,
oh.
10.
Yeah, 1, 2, 10, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So I think with all this, we have a show.
I think so.
So if you want to get at us on social media and tell us about how we're all wrong and toxic sucks, you can get at us on Facebook, Twitter, Discord. All those links are in the description below.
Yeah. Or tell us toxic doesn't suck, or tell us what cool draft synergies you found. We'd love to hear them. If you want to support the show, like I said at the beginning, there's 2 ways you can do it. The first is super easy. Whatever singles you're going to buy from this set that you don't have at your LGS, buy them from TCG Player. You get really good prices, super competitive. You get stuff shipped out quick. Hopefully it's the right cards. And you get to support us. Use our TCG Player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Surf on over to TCG Player with that site, and then whatever shopping you do will help support the show. We'll get a cut of whatever the total in your cart is. If you're looking to support us more directly, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Chip in whatever you feel we're worth. We're worth a lot, but whatever you feel
We
we're
are.
worth, go ahead and chip in, and you get access to all the Patreon stuff. So you get the pre-show, you get the show notes, you get the givebacks when I send them out, and you get the good feeling inside knowing that you're helping to keep the show you love going. And that's all that really
we
matters,
like that.
right?
We like that.
Warm
That's all that really
fuzzies.
matters is the warm fuzzies.
Yep.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internet.